Before, Arsenal was in crisis, with Arteta's head apparently on the chopping block, but just 3 matches later, and suddenly, Chelsea and Frank Lampard are the new talking point on the stick or twist front. Hey there, I'm Adrian and welcome to Rabona TV, where today I'm going to split this video into 2 parts, well 3, if you count the section where I give my own opinion, not that anyone cares. But the 2 main parts, arguments for Lampard and why Chelsea should keep him, and arguments in favor of sacking the fledgling manager. Be sure to subscribe if you're new and are feeling the content, and let me know what you think. Keep Lamps, chop him, your call. Before that though, a big shout out and thank you to OneFootball for making this video possible. OneFootball is the ultimate app for fans of Chelsea, the Premier League, or simply football at large. Customize the news feed and receive the latest breaking news alerts by following the players, teams, and competitions you care the most about. Watch highlights and other videos, follow matches live with their in-depth match trackers, track the movements of your club's transfers with their transfer rumor raters, and so much more. Use the link in the description for a free download on iOS or Android, and you'll help out the channel massively in doing so. And yourself, really. So thanks again, OneFootball, and let's get into it, starting with arguments against Lampard. For me, all of this comes down to the question of why you brought Lampard in the first place. And once you can answer that, then you can move forward with your decision a bit better. Was Lampard brought in because he knows the club and you want to provide him a platform to grow, knowing that there will be some growing pains along the way as he learns how to manage? Were you hoping to emulate what Real Madrid did with Zidane, in which he stepped in after Benitez as someone who knows every facet of the club, the expectations of the club, and has a good brain for the game? Or was he simply brought in as a cheap option after the failure of Sarri while you try to lock down the next big managerial signing for the club? That's what some reports are saying now, that he was only kept on to sort of navigate the COVID-19 period, and that Chelsea are looking to bring in someone else, and have been since the summer. But given the poor performances of late, there's a very, very large sword of Damocles that is hanging over his head in the form of the investment in the squad from this past summer. A massive, massive investment of around £230 million during a pandemic, no less. That's a club going out on a limb for their manager. With this much investment, expectations are always going to be raised, and you can't say that the board hasn't backed him in the transfer market. Timo Werner and Kai Havertz were some of the most sought-after talents available in Europe. Ben Chilwell addressed the problem left-back position that Chelsea fans had been begging for. Hakim Ziyech adds extremely legitimate depth to their right-wing position. Thiago Silva brings experience and a talent to their centre-back position despite his age, while the Kepa problem was finally solved in bringing in Edouard Mendy. Investment or not, we all know by now that a strong squad doesn't exactly equal success. This is perhaps an extreme case, but look at Bayern Munich under Niko Kovac. Lifeless, terrible to watch. The players didn't know what they were supposed to be doing. They weren't playing the style of football they're used to, as they were expected to sit deep, etc. And then look at what happened when Hansi Flick came in. They ended up winning the league. They won the cup and the Champions League. Same squad, exact same squad, different manager. Again, it's not an apples to apples comparison, but it illustrates the difference a manager can make, both good in Flick's case and bad in Kovac's case. Does Chelsea have as strong a side as Bayern Munich? No. We saw them going head-to-head last season and the golfing class between them, but with all of the investment that has been made into the squad since then to complement the decent players they already had, expectations are raised alongside the talent within the squad, and expectations have not been met, at least at this point in the season. Is it the strongest squad in Europe? No, but it's a damn talented squad that a good manager would be able to get the best out of. And if they did, they would be one of the most exciting attacking squads in Europe, in my opinion at least. The talent is just outrageous that they boast, but they haven't been able to hit those heights. And speaking of Europe, another mark against Lampard will be the importance of making it into the Champions League. And during this global pandemic, when profits have been absolutely slashed for all top clubs without fans entering the stadiums, the importance of the Champions League money grows even further. With Chelsea, that's compounded even further with the amount of spending that they did last summer. They could be in a very tricky situation if they don't make the Champions League. At Borussia Dortmund, we saw Lucien Favre get sacked for this reason, with Dortmund sporting director Michael Zorc saying, quote, "It was a tough decision for us to take. Nonetheless, we felt we were in danger of not achieving our objectives for the season after this difficult phase. That's why we had to take action." Now, of course, there were other reasons as to why Favre was sacked, such as losing the dressing room. But if Chelsea continued to slip, a similar sentiment to what Zorc said could force Chelsea into a decision. The objectives they set for the season could be in danger. Do they stick with Lampard in spite of the results, or do they bring in someone such as Maxi Allegri or the recently jobless Thomas Tuchel? For those in the sack Lampard camp, perhaps this is a more attractive option. Letting your season slip while the stakes are so high on the financial side with an inexperienced manager and Lampard at the helm while other candidates are available, coupled with the failure despite the investment, certainly does make it difficult to find arguments in favor of Lampard. But let's give it a go. Again, let's go over the underlying question of what you brought Lampard in to do. Did you bring him in to win trophies right away, or because he knows the club better than anyone? He showed promise at Derby, and you want to provide him a platform to grow from. Now, let's not look at the latter, because if that's the case, then giving him a chance to make this right would be part of that plan, because every manager has rough patches, and a good manager will learn from it and improve upon themselves. But in order to do that, they need to be given the chance to do so. One club that has provided us a perfect example of sticking with a manager, and perhaps an example that Chelsea will be well aware of and willing to follow, was of course Southampton sticking with Ralph Hasenhüttl. As you can remember, in October of 2019, Southampton lost 9-0 against Leicester. That's an incredible embarrassment. And coupled with the rest of their poor results, it was looking rather grim for Southampton. That baptism from Leicester came amidst what would be an 8-match winless run that left them in 19th after 13 matches with just 8 points to their name. From that point on, Southampton actually went on to collect more points than Leicester, the team that destroyed them, and ended up finishing in 12th. This season, they've become one of the most difficult teams to play in the league. They're 4 points off of first, beat Liverpool, Everton, drew Arsenal and Chelsea, and so on. They're looking great. Maybe Hasenhüttl is a better manager than Frank Lampard. In my opinion, I would have to suspect that he maybe is, but we won't know for sure unless Lampard is given a chance to show us just how good or bad he really is. Hasenhüttl is 13 years into his managerial career, while Lampard is just 2 years in, as he took the reins at Derby County for the 2018-19 season. That's not long ago. And it was always going to be a big gamble for Chelsea. 1 year of experience managing in the Championship, in which he managed to take the squad to a 6th place finish. Yes, they made the promotion playoff finals, but they lost 2 of those 3 matches they played there, including the final. And in general, I think the league results across 46 matches give a better representation of their season rather than the 3 matches in the playoff competition. But anyway, at this point in the season, you could say that the Premier League is still in the sifting out phase of the competition, that it hasn't progressed enough for the teams to fall into the positions that are to be expected of them or predicted of them to finish in. I mean, at the time of making this video, Crystal Palace sit in 14th place on 22 points, just 7 points behind Tottenham, who are currently in 4th. It's extremely tight still, and depending on other results, 2 or 3 matches can take you from mid-table to a Champions League place. Add in the fact that there's no crowds and home games mean a little bit less than they used to, and it's going to be a very strange season. Perhaps you could go as far as saying it's going to be an exceptional season. The magic of 3 matches, just look at what happened with Arsenal. They were flirting with a relegation dogfight just 3 matches ago, but 3 wins on the trot later, and they're suddenly 6 points away from European places. Perhaps one of the more damning results of late was Chelsea's role in actually helping or becoming the victim of Arsenal snapping their terrible run of form with that 3-1 victory over Lampard's Chelsea, and perhaps pivoting the fortunes of their season. Yet to be seen though, because I'll say it again, we're almost at the halfway point of the season, and a lot can change in that time frame, just as the complexion of your season can change with just 3 wins. So where do I stand on it? Not that anyone asks, of course, but I'm pretty split on this one. It's quite the tough decision for Chelsea, a bit of a balancing act. You look at the investments made in the squad, and you echo what Michael Zorc of Dortmund said about the season objectives slipping away under Lucien Favre, and you can apply the same sort of logic to Chelsea's situation. With all of that backing, financially, you have to deliver, and he hasn't done so yet. Then you look at Hasenhüttl and how Southampton backed him, and it's paid dividends, but with respect to Southampton, they aren't operating in the same ballpark as Chelsea. The expectations are a bit lower. They aren't Champions League football. They didn't spend £230 million to push on and try to win trophies this season. So that's something that is ultimately the sticking point in the comparison between those two sides. So I don't want to be a fence sitter on this one. And while I could argue with myself for hours on the subject, I won't. Ultimately, I think that it is a bit too early to sack Lampard in this moment. As mentioned, a few good results completely changes the complexion of their season. If the defense find their form from October through early December, in which they were collecting clean sheets for fun, 9 clean sheets in 12 matches. If Timo Werner finds the form he was in with Leipzig, if Pulisic can stay healthy, Hudson-Odoi continues to improve, Tammy Abraham continues with his recent consistency, then Chelsea and Lampard will be fine. Rough patches are to be expected for any manager. Guardiola has them, Klopp has them, Mourinho certainly has had them in the past. And they should especially be expected of a manager who is a student of the game. The managerial game, that is. But if they continue to slip down the standings and get knocked out of the Champions League by Atletico Madrid in February/March, then perhaps it's time for Chelsea to make that hard decision. Keep him for now, I say. Give him time to make it right and reassess his standing come early March. Hey, this is editor Adrian checking in just very quickly here because on camera Adrian forgot to say something, and that is that they should only reassess in March if the financial situation is as dire as it's expected to be. Because otherwise I very much subscribe to the idea of just letting him continue, seeing how he grows as a manager to see out the season, at the minimum. Okay, back to the other guy. But what do you think? Are you Lampard in or Lampard out? Do let me know in the comments. Let's get a temperature of where the community stands on this one. By the way, if you haven't subscribed yet to join our community, we'd love to have you. But beyond that, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I truly appreciate it. My name's Adrian, I love you, and I hope to see you in the comments of our next video. Ciao.